we will be there are different virtualization softwares are there, and many of our paid products and many of them are free product. One of the free product is the Oracle VirtualBox. Okay, VirtualBox was a third party is being handled by some other vendor, but recently it was actually a product from Sun Microsystems. But recently, like a couple of years back, Oracle has purchased the Sun Microsystem. So at that time, the VirtualBox is also became the part of the Oracle software. So there is no license fee or anything is required for that. Just 1 second, guys. Just give me a minute. Okay. So so here virtualization is a technology in which you can create a logical machine inside another machine. Say for example, I have a Windows operating system is there. In that Windows operating system, using the virtualization technology, I'll create a virtual machine or a logical machine. But once I create the logical machine is going to take the resources of this machine only. I mean, so you can say that there are two machines are there, two type of machines. One is that guest and the other one is host. Okay, the host is the machine, or the host is the machine on which you are going to install the virtualization technology and then creating the virtual machines. Am I clear here?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you are going to create the other. Once you create the virtual machines, you are going to install the operating system and then going to work on over there. So the first step, what we are going to do that we are going to install the virtualization. I'm just going through the steps. So let's go for the software. That is Oracle VirtualBox. Okay, you can. There are two ways you can download. Either you can just go to oraclevirtualbox.org, or else you can just go to Oracle Downloads. So this is the place where I normally download. So here you can, based on your operating system, like you can see that we have 32-bit and 64 Windows, and then Linux machines. So there are different for the different operating system. Depends upon what is your host operating system. You can have the different softwares, I mean different RPMs. So you can just install, you can download it. There is no license or anything, you can just download and install the software. Okay, so I'm not going through the process of installing it, just like any machine or any operating system, like any software installation. So you can just do that. Let's see what will happen after the installation. Okay, once the installation is completed, you are going to get a menu like Oracle VM VirtualBox. Okay, so just click on here. Okay, you will be seeing the different an option where in which you can this is your favorites, and here you can create.
Excuse me, I can't see this. No,
yeah, you can
see, right?
You can see, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So once we started the VirtualBox manager, which is an environment which allows you to manage your virtual machines. Once it is up, you have the two different options. One is that you can create a new virtual machine, or you can change the settings of the existing virtual machine, and you can start a new the existing virtual machines. So let's try to create a new virtual machine. Just click on the new button. Okay, it's ask you what is the name of your machine. So I'm just giving Wysheid 4. Okay, now it's asking what type of the operating system. I'm going ahead with the Linux operating system. Okay, and then it's asking what is the version of the Linux that you want. Do you want the Fedora or whatever it be? Okay, so you can select that operating system. For example, here we'll be going ahead with the Linux 2.6 64-bit, for example. Okay, and then once this is assigned, you can just click on next. Okay, next is asking like what is the memory that is required for this machine. Say for example, I want to give 500 MB of
Vimal, just a second. You selected Linux 64-bit version. Even if host system is 32-bit, whether we can create VirtualBox of 64-bit?
No, your operating system and your host should be supporting whatever you are selecting here. It should be already be supported by the host. For example, your CPU should be supporting 64-bit, and your operating system, the Windows operating system or the Linux operating system of the host machine should be supporting that bit architecture. So in my case, my operating system is 64-bit. That's the reason I selected 64-bit.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Just click on next. Okay. Now, how much is the space? Now, so we are creating a system. For that, we have selected the CPU type. We selected it's a 64-bit, and then we have assigned the memory, and the next one is that hard disk space. How much is the hard disk space you want? There are three options. One is that don't add a virtual hard drive now. You can add it later. The other option is that use an existing virtual hard disk. Say, for example, you already created a hard disk for one machine, but you don't want to use that machine. You wanted to create a new machine, but assign the hard disk which you already created. So you can select the third option. Otherwise, you can go ahead with a new create a new virtual hard disk. Am I clear? Okay. Now it is asking you. It is telling you what are the different hard drive file type. So these are the different hard disk type which is supported on the virtualization environment. For example, VDI is a VirtualBox software disk image. VMDK, it is a VMware kind of disk. So based on the different virtualization technology, it is providing the. So which also means that one, if you create a hard disk, say based on the parallel hard disk, parallel servers are the virtualization technology given by Microsoft. So if you create a disk with the option of parallel disk, then what you can do is that you can use the hard disk when you are creating a virtual machine using the parallel server or parallel machine option, which is another virtualization technology. Am I clear here?
Yeah.
Okay, just click on next. Okay, now the size is assigned. There are two ways of assigning. One is that dynamically allocated and another one is fixed size. Okay, fixed size means it will be, say you are creating a hard disk of say 8 GB. So in that case, the 8 GB of space will be taken from the operating system initially. So that's known as the fixed size. Okay, dynamic size is another way to handle, where in which if you say 8 GB, okay, the disk will not take the 8 GB initially. Okay, it will take only the minimum required space. But when you're creating the virtual machine, from the virtual machine you feel that there is 30 GB of space is there. But from the host machine, it will not take that 30 GB. It will take only the required space, and it will. But the problem is that it will keep growing till it reaches the maximum size allocated by you. Am I clear?
Yeah.
Just click on next. Okay. Now you can see that where you can select where you want the disks to be created. Select the option. So here, yeah, and just creating on the default location. If you wanted to change, then you can browse and select the option. And I'm just giving a space of 20 GB or 25 GB. Okay, just click on create. It will create a disk. So now you can see that there is a machine which is with the following options. It says that the machine host name, the operating system, the base memory, the devices that is available, and you can see that boot order. So first the boot order is floppy, second is CD, and the third one is that hard disk, and then you can see the display information, the storage information, audio, and network. This is important for us. because you may want to connect to your machine or the virtual machine from your laptop. Okay, so it's always better that if you wanted to connect it to your machine from your laptop, you take a network adapter, which is NAT. Okay, NAT allows easy communication between the virtual machine and the host machine. Fine, and you can select up to 4 network adapters. So certain configurations, like say Oracle rack installation, in that kind of environment, we may have to have more than 1 network card. You need to have at least 2 network cards to have Oracle rack installation. So at that time, you can select the second adapter and give that whatever the, just click on the enable network adapter. So that network device will be available for this virtual machine. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can think about the serial ports, and that all things are not really important for us.
I have one quick question here. Like the space which you have allotted for virtual machine, is there a particular requirement for that?
See, that depends upon how much space you wanted to allocate for your Linux operating system. Okay, say our intention is to create a Linux operating system, right? Or Linux machine.
Right.
Yeah. So it depends upon how much you wanted to do. Say, for example, if your intention is to practice only Linux, okay, so 15 GB is more than sufficient.
Okay.
Ideally, the software installation will take almost 8 GB. Remaining 7 GB is there for you to practice. You don't require more than that space. But your intention is that you wanted to install Linux, learn Linux, and after that you wanted to install Oracle or any other RDBMS software.
Right.
In that case, it may require more space.
So at least 25 GB.
Yeah, 25 to 30 GB will be sufficiently good.
Okay. How about the memory? How you will decide about the memory, like how much?
Memory, I just, for the time being, I just showed that I'm allocating 500 MB because my intention is not to overload the other systems. But for the Oracle installation, let's think about from the Oracle point of view, because our intention is to have the Oracle RDBMS installed and create a database and learn it, right?
Right.
So with that point, you must have at least 1.5 GB of memory for that machine.
Okay.
Because we are going to install Oracle 11G release 2. For that, the minimum base memory requirement is 1 GB. Okay. So we give a little bit space more. So we'll give at least 1.5 GB of memory for each machine.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll be practicing mainly on Linux, right? Not Unix.
Yeah. See, the Linux and Unix the features are almost same.
Okay.
I mean, that are of 2 different flavors, but the Linux is actually an independent operating system. It's not really evolved from the Unix operating system, but it has taken many of the features of the Unix. So, as a DBA point of view, okay, if you learn Linux, you will be able to manage Unix environments. Or else, if you learn Unix environments, you will be able to manage Linux also.
Okay.
Because of the similarity of the commands.
Okay.
Just one second. Okay. Now, the next step is that we need to associate the operating system. Now, we created a virtual machine. Now, we have to install the operating system. How we can do that? You can just start. Okay. When it's starting the first time, it will ask you that from where you want it to, because there is no operating system on the machine.
I can't see the screen.
Yeah. Now you are able to see? Yeah. When I just started the machine, it is asking that select the startup disk. The reason is that in this virtual machine, there is no operating system, right? So since there is no operating system, it is prompting you to give a device where an operating system is there. So what we need to do is that we need to either have the Linux operating system CD on the drive, or else you can just give the path of the ISO image. So just click on the browse button. See, if you're looking, I have on my C drive, I have Enterprise, that is Oracle Enterprise 5 Update 4 is there. The software which was already downloaded, and it is available there in my host machine or Windows machine. I just redirected the path over here. Is that clear?
So now you are configuring the Linux, right?
Yeah, I'm just going to install the Linux operating system.
So you selected version 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I have selected the virtual, the Oracle OEL, Oracle Enterprise Linux version 5, version 5 update 4. That's what I selected.
Okay.
So I downloaded from OTN, the site that is edelivery.oracle.com. Do you know that about the site?
No.
Okay. So the Linux can be downloaded from different sites. Okay, but Oracle is also having its own Linux is there, or the existing Linux Oracle has been modified or tuned for the Oracle databases. Okay, so that that operating system can be downloaded from edelivery.oracle.com/Linux. Okay, here you need to sign in or register. And then once you sign in, then you will be able to select which version that you want, and then you can download it. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Just one second. Like this, I have downloaded the software, and the software I have kept it. That's the software which I redirected to my virtual machine.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
Somehow it's not able to. It's kind of, I need to select the operating system. Okay. Just click on open. So now you can see that the operating system CD is associated. The operating system CD is, or operating system file is associated with our CD-ROM. Remember, the CD-ROM was the first boot-in device. Okay. Now just click on start. Okay, so let me just recap for Pavitra, you joined?
Yes, I joined. Sorry,
Yeah.
I got disconnected in between.
No problem. See, what we have done is that we have downloaded the virtual virtualization software. We installed, and then we created the virtual machine. Okay. Did you see the process of creating the virtual machine?
I already created, but anyway, this class is recorded. I'll go through once. If any doubt is there, I'll ask in the next. I'll get it cleared.
Yeah. So once we created the virtual machine, we associated the Linux operating system, which you downloaded from a site called edelivery.oracle.com/Linux, from which you can download the Linux software. And we associated the Linux software to this virtual machine, and then we started the machine. Okay, So now the Linux is going through the installation procedure. So it was waiting for our confirmation. After a few seconds, it will be doing the automatic installation. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Now the next step, it is asking that it has found the CD-ROM. It is asking like, do you want to do a media check? Okay. Media check is a process where in which the Linux installer, the one which is started now is the Linux installer. The Linux installer will go through the contents of the CD media and see whether there is any corruption. This is really useful because certain times what happens is that at the end of the installation, you will understand that the installations failed due to some corrupted files. Okay, so it will be a lot of time waste as well. So to avoid that, it is better that you allow the media to test it. So in the real-time installations, it's always better. But here in this case, in our case, it is not required because it is the software media directly. It is not the CD-ROM. Rather, it's the software that is we are attached. The software which you download from edelivery.oracle.com. That is what we are associating with the VirtualBox. So there is less chances of corruption. So because of that, I am skipping this option. Is that clear?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, you can see that Anaconda. That is the Linux installer. The program which is doing the installation is known as Anaconda. Okay, now you can see that one of the problem with the virtualization is that sometimes the mouse movement may not be accurate. Okay, that's never mind. Just click on next. Okay. Now it's asking what is the language. We'll select as English. Next. US English as the keyboard. Okay. Now it's asking that the partition table of the device, that is the disk which is associated, it is not readable, which means there is no, it's a just unpartitioned disk. It is identified that the hard disk which are already available is unpartitioned disk, which means it is not able to find out anything on the disk. So it is telling that, do you want to install the CD or the, do you want it to create a partitions on the disk and then you want to install or not? So if you are telling that create the partition, all the data inside that disk will be lost. Fine?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
What you didn't understand? I mean, what is
the last step, if we choose yes, then what happens?
See, here, what happens is, say, you have a 30 GB hard disk is there, right? The 30 GB hard disk, okay, that can be an empty hard disk or it can be a already used hard disk. You got me? Say, you purchase the machine. Say, you purchase the machine. So at that time, you are telling to your storage, your vendor that I don't want a hard disk because I already have a hard disk from my previous desktop. So I'll use the hard disk. So that hard disk may be having some data, right? So what Linux is telling that if you are proceeding with the installation, you are going to lose all the data in that hard disk.
If you make the partition.
Yeah. You are going to create a for the software to be installed, a hard disk has to be divided into different units or partitioned. Okay. So what Linux is telling that you are going to do the partition. If you are doing the partition, then whatever the contents in that disk will be lost. Are you ready for that?
Okay.
If you are telling yes,
okay,
then Linux will do the partition. Otherwise, Linux will stop the partition. I mean, it will tell you to provide with a new disk.
So in our case, you have not done the partition, right?
okay.
No, we are going to do the partition. We are going to do the partition now.
Okay, because example, I have my computer, right? Because I have already hard disk. So I'll not choose that option to make the partition, otherwise I'll lose the data.
No. Without a partition, you will not be able to install the operating system. So here is a check for you that if you don't want to lose the data, then go ahead with a new disk. That's only option.
Okay. So
you cannot install an operating system without creating a partition.
Okay. So you have selected a new disk or?
Yeah, because we see in our case we have created a new disk only, right? We just had a blank disk only, so that is not a problem.
Okay.
But what I'm telling is that suppose in your virtualization classes it will not be a problem, but there may be a situation where in which say you are planning to install a software directly. I mean on a original machine rather than virtualization. You purchased a new machine. You are having say you didn't purchase hard disk. You thought of using the existing hard disk. In that case, this drawback is there.
So in real world, if you are installing in real world, like at the client place, so if you are planning to install the Linux, so in that case, what option I have to select?
You have to select the same option, because say in your client locations, definitely they will be giving you with empty hard disk only. But if they are given you with without let's say non-empty hard disk, you have to inform them that the data will be lost.
Okay.
So they may have to take a backup and then you give to you or something like they have to take a decision. Okay, fine. So it is telling you that there are three options for you. One is that remove all the partitions on the selected drive and create a default layout. Or otherwise remove only the Linux partitions, or use only the free space. Keep the partition and use only the free space, which will lose your availability of the space. Or else you can go ahead with a custom layout. These are the four different options. Okay, which means if you are having these first three options are applicable only for the disk which have some data. Say for example, you have a Windows operating system was there. A hard disk, say you have a 500 GB hard disk was there. In that one, you have created the 300 GB. You created one C drive and you installed the Windows operating system. The remaining 200 GB is a free space. Am I clear?
Okay.
Okay. In that case, you have the two options. One is that use only the free space. So the Linux operating system will not get the 500 GB. It will get only the 200 free space only. And the Linux operating system will create a partition under that and then use it. But Linux will not be able to use the 300 GB of space. That's one option. Second option is that you can select the option of remove all partitions. That means it will remove the partitions which was there with the Windows operating system. At that time, what happens is that the data inside that partition will be lost.
From the C drive.
Okay. On the C drive.
Okay.
Okay. Now the another option is that remove Linux partition. That means say in a hard disk, you think that in a hard disk you have 500 GB hard disk was there. You installed on 100 GB you installed C drive, and another 200 GB you installed Linux. Okay. Now you are going to use that hard disk again. In that case, you can leave that Windows intact and select the option remove the Linux partitions. So it will remove the existing Linux partition and then the other free space whatever it got. With that it will go ahead with a partition table creation. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Pavitra? Okay. The other option is that create a custom layout. Okay. So custom layout, if you are selecting, I normally go ahead with the option of custom layout. So in that case, what happens then? You will have an option to review and make any changes to what you want. Okay. Now it is you can see that it gives an option like the total space is 25 GB, and it is showing us the 25 GB is a free space. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. There we are going to create a new partition. So just click on new. So the first thing is that you need to take a area called swap for the operating system. Swap is a space where in which the data that is not, so the data which is spilled out of the memory will be stored. For example, your operating system is having say 200 or 500 MB of memory that we allocated to the operating system. But the data what you are going to work may be above the 500 MB of data. In that case, what happens then? The data which is outside that memory scope has to be returned to some file or some area in the operating system.
Okay.
Okay. That area is known as a swap.
Okay.
Am I clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So the swap, there is a thumb rule for calculating the swap. The thumb rule is that up to 2 GB of the physical memory, give double of the up to 4 GB of the physical memory, give the double of the physical memory for swap.
Okay.
Okay. After that, you can give 1.5 or equal memory of equal amount of physical memory, equal space of the physical memory to the swap. Fine. So since our swap is our physical memory is 500 MB, and this is going to give 1024 memory to the swap area. Okay. Now the next option is that I need to provide the space for my root file system. So I'll give say the file system type is going to be ext3, that is a Linux native file system. I'll give 10 GB to my root partition. Fine. And then I'll create one more partition that is new, that is a, I'll give us data for storing my data.
Okay.
That will be say 14556. Okay. Just click on OK. If you'll observe, I have left some free space. Then intention is that because this is a virtualized environment, certain on the file, certain free space is required. That free space is known as the header portion. So for that header portion, we need to keep some free space. Okay. So just click on next. Then it is asking like, what is the bootloader? Bootloader is a program which will be helping you to load the operating system when the machine is coming up. So which device or which path the bootloader is there? The bootloader is available on /dev/sda1. Okay, that is a default place because we had only one disk. So it is telling that on that disk will be the bootloader software will be there. By default, we don't have to change that one. We can just keep it in the existing space itself. Okay, let's click on next. Now it is telling you that it is telling that the Ethernet card. It is by default is showing that the Ethernet card 1, that is ETH0. The first Ethernet card is known as ETH0, and then you can see that you can the host name. There are two options. Host name can be given by the DHCP, that is a dynamic host control provider, or you can manually give it. So I'll give the name manually. Wysheid 4. Okay. Now if you wanted to give the IP addresses, I can, here you can say that dynamically IP configuration is there. Otherwise I can just give the manual IP configuration. Say for example, I want to give 10.17.57.
So this is your machine IP address, right?
Yeah, this is a machine IP address of this virtual machine. Okay. And the other one 255.255.
So how you know the IP address of this virtual machine?
We have to give an IP address.
Okay. Any IP?
Because any IP should be fine.
Okay.
Okay. So because this is a communication between these two machines only. So any IP will be sufficient. But when this machine, if this your virtual machine is going to be a part of your network, say for example, you have some 3 to 4 machines are there. These 3 to 4 physical machines are there. You wanted this virtual machine to be communicating with that physical machines. Then you should give an IP address which is similar to that other machines. Is that clear?
Similar to the other machine or the machine which I am communicating with?
No. If you are saying you have the two machines are there, machine A and B, right? Each machine in the network will be having a separate IP address.
Right.
Yeah. So if you wanted to have, say, if you wanted to have to another connected to another machine, then this machine's IP address and that other machine's IP address should be belonging to the same series.
Okay.
For example, the first 3 letters are known as the subnet. Okay. That is 10.17.57. That is the subnet of this network.
Okay.
So the subnet of the machines should be the same if the machine has to communicate.
Okay.
If the subnet is different, then we need to have a router in between.
Okay.
Right? So since this machine, I'm not planning to communicate from outside, so I'm just leaving it on the normal, whatever the IP address which I'm giving. IPv6 is another technology where which instead of 4 points, I mean here if you're looking, IP address is having 4 units, right? 10, 17, 57, 10. So 4 units are there. IPv6 will be having 6 units. So that is a new internet protocol technology which is coming. So if you wanted to enable, you can enable. Otherwise, you can just disable as well.
Okay.
That is not really going to matter our work. So it is immaterial. Now just click on next. Okay. So it says that you have not specified the gateway because I have gone with the manual method. So manual methods, so for a network, there should be IP address and subnet and the gateway. So gateway is not mentioned. So that is because of that it's complaint in there. Gateway is not there. So are you sure to continue? Yes. It says that primary DNS. DNS is a IP address of a machine which will be helping you to communicate with the other machines. So that also left blank. That should be fine. Okay. Now it is asking that what is the timestamp of your environment. You can take a timestamp as here I am selecting Asia Kolkata. Let's click on next. Here it's asking me the password of the user. So the password I'm just giving as Oracle. Here the super user is root. Okay. So the password of the root will be Oracle. Now it is telling that the default installation of Linux is ready. It is telling that there are certain features if you wanted to implement, you can select it. Otherwise, you can just go ahead with the basic installation. For example, your Linux server you wanted to use for the software development, you can select that packages. Or else, if you wanted to use this as this server as a web server, then you can use that feature. Or else you wanted for the clustering, you can use it. So based on whatever your requirement, you can select the different options. And also another advantage is what Linux is telling that suppose if you select, suppose if you now you went with the basic feature only, but later point of time you're thinking that okay you wanted to make this as a web server. So Linux always allows you to add that component later point of time.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not like that you just now you have to remove everything and do it later. It's not required because you have to just install that package only. For example, for the web server, there is a software is there. That software will not be selected if you are not selecting now, but later point you can install it.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll select just the default one and just click on next. Okay, so it is telling you that it's ready to do the installation. Let's proceed. Let's click on next. Okay, you can see that it is formatting the root partition, then it will format the data partition, and then it will start the installation. Once the installation is completed, the installer will prompt you to restart the machine. You may have to restart, which will complete the installation. Is this clear?